Mr. Wexler?
Here.
Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Mr. Loscom? Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. McGough?
Here. The purpose of public hearing is to hear testimony and discuss the following: file of council number 34, 2014, establishing permit parking only in the 900 block of Prescott Avenue on both sides of the street, 901 to 949 and 902 to 956, which includes all the residences with the exception of apartments located above commercial properties. Sign-in sheet, Sharon Plank.
I have some photographs. May I bring them up?
Sure.
The top photograph is...
I'm sorry, would you just state your name for the record? Thank you.
The photo is 10 minutes to 7 in the morning and shows you pretty much what, you can pass them around and keep them, pretty much what you would expect the neighborhood to be. Some people have already gone to work, a lot of them are still there. The following ones are situations that we run into on a daily basis.
Thank you. The
Problems that we have had parking on Prescott Avenue have really caused a decrease in our quality of life. I will admit it's sporadic. You can come down there sometimes a day, there's plenty of parking. You can come other times of day and you cannot find a place to park on the block. The worst times for me, and I'm up on the upper block closer to the retail establishments, anytime at lunchtime. I used to come home for lunch, I don't anymore. I have an hour till I drive home, find some place to park, which sometimes is all the way up on the 1,000 block of Prescott. Walk back. I don't have time to eat before I need to get back in my car and go back to work. Saturday mornings, I like to do my grocery shopping. The only way that I can have a parking place is if I illegally place my orange cones out and hold my parking place. My alternative is to double park and hope that nobody hits me or my car as I'm unloading my groceries. It really has impacted the quality of our life. It's a safety issue. Property values. How do you show a house on a weekend when there's no place to park? You're going to drive up the street. You're going to see there's no, the prospective purchaser is going to see the lack of parking and say, I don't want to live here. I personally know 3 families who have left the 900 block of Prescott because of the parking issues. They were renters. They have that flexibility. Those of us who own our homes don't have that flexibility. And it is something that we face just about on a daily basis between the local restaurants, the bars, the yoga studio, various other, I know the lower portion has trouble with the school parking. I don't think it's too much to ask to be able to park on our block. I understand permit parking isn't going to say you can park right in front of your home, but it does hopefully ensure that we can park within a reasonable distance of our home. My husband, who's here, works second shift. He gets home at 11:30 at night. There have been occasions when he has not had a place to park and has to walk at night back to our house. Hope nothing happens to his car till the next morning when he can move it back to where we are. So I hope you'll really consider this, consider our quality of life, and help us out here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mrs. Plank. Karen Clark?
That was me. Oh, Karen.
Hi, my name is Karen Clark from the 900 block of Prescott, but I'm at the other end, 911. We're by the school. I just recently retired. I worked at Mercy Hospital for years, the night shift, and especially when the weather was bad, I would walk to work because by the time I'd get home from work, I wouldn't have a spot. It'd all be taken. Or if you shoveled the spot out, well, then it's gone by the time you get home. this past winter was terrible. My daughter, who was here, we just went grocery shopping just for a few minutes. We didn't put anything in the spot that we had shoveled out. Ran to the store, came back, and there was nowhere to go. Couldn't go through the court because it wasn't plowed. I was actually in tears because I didn't know what to do. Where am I going to go? I can't take somebody else's spot. I have all these groceries. And that's how it's been. And then it is worse when school is in session because we have the teachers and the parents picking up their children. They'll come maybe half hour early to get a spot, so then don't go shopping when it's time for school to come out because, it's because you won't get a spot when you get home. You know, it really is terrible sometimes, and I just hope this is passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Clark. Nadine Sims?
Good evening. I live at 936 Prescott. I'm Sharon's neighbor, and I agree with everything she says. We all have that problem. My granddaughter recently moved out because she lived with me because she was frustrated with not being able to park, and she worked, and she would get home also late at night. She's 25 years old. She's not going to walk a block in the dark to come home to park a car. It's not safe for a man, anyone to park that distance, and it's frustrating. I know my apprehension when I'm going out shopping or anything. I'm coming around the corner. I come up Myrtle Street. As well, I turn the corner, I hope I have a place to park when I take my groceries out. And we all have that problem of double parking, unloading your groceries, and then it's not nice, and it's not a comfortable feeling. Yes, the quality of our life has changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sims. Ozzie Quinn?
Ozzie Quinn, 116 Master Street, Hill Section, President of the Hill Neighborhood Association. In May, we had on our agenda this 900 block of Prescott Avenue parking permits, and we have more than 50 people in attendance who unanimously approved of the permit parking, knowing the problems on Prescott Avenue. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Councilman Gahan for writing hard on this, and hope this will clear up the mess that's there right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak to this issue? Please just state your name since I don't have it.
Yes, Joseph Janczak, 917 Prescott Avenue. I'd just like to view a little of the opposition to the parking issue. I'm particularly opposed to it. I could only fit one car in front of my house. In my aspect, I can't. It wouldn't be prudent for me to buy a permit where half the block is going to park in front of my house anyway, and it doesn't bother me. I could park in the rear. That's just me. I understand a lot of these people here can't. But again, if I was to have people over, it's also poses another issue for me. Another issue I have with it as well is the enforcement. I read in the city ordinance that it's a $25 fine. I know nobody could remove the vehicle if it's parked in the spot. I don't think it's going to be a feasible solution to the problem there, being the fact that the traffic, even though we do have a couple apartments there, that the businesses are mostly in and out. The grocery store, the yoga studio, and also the Mansour's Market on the corner of the street. They move very quickly to enforce that ordinance. And particularly for me, I live on the other side of the block. A lot of that stuff really doesn't affect me. Again, I'm not saying that everyone else doesn't have an issue. I just wanted to voice the opposite side of parking permits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Thank you for your participation. Council will take all comments under advisement and move forward on the legislation. This public hearing is adjourned. God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silent reflection for our servicemen and women throughout the world, and also for those who have passed away in our community during the past week. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler? Mr. Rogan?
Here.
Mr. Loscom?
Here.
Mr. Gahn?
Here.
Mr. McGough?
Here. Dispense with the reading of the minutes.
Third order, 3A, Controller's Report for the months ending February 28, March 31, April 30, and May 31, 2014.
Are there any comments? If not, received and filed. Are there any clerk's notes?
No, Mr. McGough.
Any announcements or from council members?
I have one. On July 25th and 26th at the Dante Club in South Scranton, there'll be a musical comedy show hosted by the Miller Sisters. It's 6:30 p.m. will be a roast beef dinner, and at 8 p.m. the show starts. Dinner and the show is $15. The show only is $10. Must be 18 or older. Thank you.
Anyone else? No. I would like to announce that next Thursday evening at 6 p.m., Council will be having an executive session with members of the administration to discuss an item of litigation. This executive session, because it deals with litigation, is not open to the public. We will have our normal caucus afterward and meeting at 6:30.
Fourth order, citizens' participation.
Joan Hodowanitz.
Good evening, Council. Joan Hodowanitz, city resident.
Good evening.
I would want to thank the IT department for posting Mr. Amoroso's documents on the website last Thursday. That was very prompt. One document is obviously the slides that were shown here last Wednesday. The second document, which is 67 pages long, is the slides, some additional slides and information, and the narrative which supports the report that he presented last Wednesday. But I'd like to draw to your attention that this document, when it got posted to your website, not all the pages got filled in. There apparently is a problem with whatever software was used. There are at least 6 pages which are incomplete when they're viewed and when they're printed. I checked the clerk's copy in your office, and the same pages are missing data, so it wasn't my problem. It's obviously when it got posted to the website, there were some issues. And I would just ask if you could have the IT department check on this so that we can get the complete document. That would be much appreciated. Also, can you tell me if anybody's chosen a date for this proposed town hall meeting that was discussed last Wednesday, that the public can ask questions about these recommendations? Has anybody thought about a date? I remember you were talking about that last Wednesday.
I'm not aware of anything that's taking place.
What we discussed in caucus was, we discussed in caucus is we're having perhaps a public comments caucus before the end of July.
Before the end of July, but you haven't selected a
I'm
date
sorry.
yet.
No, what we want to do, council wants to be very proactive and move the comment period along towards this plan. And we'd like to do something before the end of July, and that would be for council to gain information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to comment, I was unaware. I didn't realize what you were talking about. There is potential there is potential litigation coming next week that would be part of the implementation of the plan or the recommendations that Mr. Amoroso made. If in fact those did come before council, in particular the recommendation for the Act 205, the increase in the Act 205 tax, then we would try and have a public comment on that, since it does involve more than just city residents. Ozzie Quinn?
Ozzie Quinn, Hill Neighbors Association, Taxpayers Association. I want to preface by saying this has no reflection whatsoever on the LIPS staff up there. There's 3 inspectors and 1 health inspector. They're doing a good job because they have to look at for more than 30,000 housing units in the city of Scranton, and it's very difficult how they can do it. Now, I've written many letters in, and we discussed it here about different ordinances in the city of Scranton, and one was in regards to that couch, and I know the couch is on the porches, and the upholstered furniture on the porches, and it still exists, you know. And it was a terrible thing last week in Philadelphia. I'm not comparing it to Scranton, but those 4 children died, and all those houses were lost because of a couch on the porch. That was the cause of the problem of the fire. Now, when I was here for the public hearing, and I spoke in favor of the parking, but the problem is, and I hear it every day, there is no enforcement. It's deception. There's no enforcement of the ordinances. There's the parking, there's no enforcement, and we're going around, people are saying, I have a permit, but nobody will park in my spots. I still got furniture all over on the porches up there, and the people, you collected $50 or on the ordinance for the rental registration per apartment, but you don't do anything about the maintenance of the apartment. You're supposed to have a property manager within 20 miles or something that's supposed to take care of the properties. You know, I'd like to have a percentage, say 20% of the money the city of Scranton is losing on fines because they're not enforcing the ordinances. And, you know, you can't blame them. There's 3 people. You know, it's difficult. But you got to improvise. Any of you who are military men, you know what improvising is. You know, you got to. You know, if you don't have a plan, and obviously you weren't left with a plan, the courtright administration wasn't left with a plan, you got to do something because of the fact that it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And it's continue as long as they know that nobody's going to come after them and nobody's going to find them. And I'm going to tell you something. I just looked at the absentee landlords in Hill section. Hundreds, literally hundreds. And I'll bring that into you if you want it, okay? So nobody cares about them. The guy lives in Brooklyn, New York, who cares about it, right? Nobody's writing a letter or saying, we're going to follow up. If you don't come in here in 30 days, you're going to pay $200 fine. Nobody's doing that. So the poor people that have this parking ordinance passed tonight, I don't know. I feel sorry for them because probably maybe the first week or 2, maybe there'll be people up there watching, but I think it's just going to fall down just like these other ordinances. So I hope you can do some improvisation and doing something to please enforce the ordinances in the city of Scranton. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rosie Davitt?
I have some pictures and things to give you. Can I bring them up to you?
And would you just state your name for the record, please?
Rosie Davitt, Rockwell Avenue in North Scranton. I'm here to address the right of entry agreement that I made with Dennis Gallagher on the 21st of May in order to demolish the arson home that was at 2147 Rockwell Avenue. First, I have to say that the people that actually tore the house down did a remarkable job ensuring that there was no damage to 2149 and 2145. They did a remarkable job. The young man was fantastic. What happened was that I gave agreement that they could come behind my house and go across, because if they'd done it in the front, they probably would have knocked down the walls in front, and there was also the electrical wires that they would had to have dealt with. So it would have been dangerous. So I gave that agreement. The agreement was said that they would put the yard as closely back to the way it was before. As you can see, there are pictures there. First, they put an asphalt mix down so the trucks could go past, and that was agreed on. But they were also supposed to remove that before they put anything else in there. They did not. When I spoke with Dennis Gallagher on the 24th of June, I had left a message with his secretary on the 16th of June, and he was on vacation, and I gave her the details of what my concerns were. And he called me on the 24th and said that he had been out there on the 23rd, and he said, "Rosie, the grass is growing great." Yes, the grass is growing great over part of it. But as you can see from some of the pictures, first of all, the asphalt mix has not been taken out, which means that the grass is going to grow to a certain extent, and then it's going to die because it can't go through that asphalt mix. When I addressed that with him, his comment to me was that we put 4 inches of topsoil over a paved parking lot and put grass seed down, and it's growing beautifully. Well, that's fine and dandy, but they didn't put 4 inches of topsoil on top of our land, and they didn't take the asphalt mix out, which was agreed upon. They also, the surfaces are not even. They are definitely not even. If you look at page 2, 4, and 9, actually 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 9, you'll see pictures of how uneven it is. There's holes in it that I have had 2 knees replaced. I've had a hip replaced already. If I were to fall in one of those, I could be very much in trouble. The topsoil was supposed to be brought in. I don't know what kind of topsoil you guys use, but this is not topsoil. When I saw topsoil before, it didn't have glass in it, didn't have bottles in it, didn't have old toothbrushes in it either, which you'll see in that bucket. This is not topsoil that they put on top of my land. They did not even it out, level it out. I cannot mow it. I tried tonight before I came here, and if you look at page 12, you'll see that my daughter took pictures of it before I tried to mow it, and as I tried to mow it, and there's divots in it where my mower wouldn't even go over it because there's so many uneven parts. We have children up in that area that go across my land all the time, and they have permission to do that. We are a very good neighborhood. Everybody looks after everybody else. The kids run over my land all the time. There's glass that we're finding after every single rainfall. We have more glass that comes up. And I'm sorry, but after this goes away, I'm going to be responsible for that. On the agreement, if you look at page 3, paragraph 3, it says the city shall restore the property to its condition as nearly as possible prior to any disturbance that the city is responsible for during the exercise of its rights herein. It's not that way. And don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled that the property is gone. The house is gone. Dennis came out and he took care of that, and I appreciate that. But me trying to get a hold of him has not done any good. The last discussion I had with him was on June 24th, and he said he would try to get a bobcat out there. It's not there. It hasn't been there, and he has not answered my phone calls since then. I'd appreciate any help that you can give me. Thank you.
Mrs. Davitt, we will attempt to contact DPW, and if you have a contract with the city, they should fulfill the terms of that contract.
Thank you. And I'll take my basket if you don't want. I mean, that way, you know, sorry.
I thought you were bringing muffins for us, but...
Is this ours, or is this extra?
Yeah, that's yours. I have my, thank you.
Thank you. David Lewis?
Before I begin, I have some handouts for the council. Could I approach?
Please. And please, again, just state your name for...
My name is David Lewis, Scranton resident, and also the president and general manager of L.A. Lewis Moving and Storage, 2401 Luzerne Street in Scranton. The last 2 years, of course, as you know, we have a project in Kaiser Valley, the Kaiser Avenue project. Going into it, we knew was going to be a 3-year project. We're in the second year of the project. I knew the day would come that they would start at our intersection, which is Dalton Street and Kaiser Avenue. That was approximately 4 weeks ago. But unfortunately, this project has created a real sad situation pertaining to my business and all of the businesses that are located on Luzerne Street. They have raised the intersection considerably. They have taken the right-hand turn privilege for trucks. If you're approaching from Taylor, coming into Scranton, making a right-hand turn onto our street, and now, about a week ago, they erected a sign that coming out of my business on Luzerne Street, you can no longer make a left-hand turn going to the turnpike. I have made several calls to PennDOT regarding. I've been to their local office, their field office here in Scranton. This past Monday, WBRE did a live broadcast from the corner of Dalton Street and Kaiser Avenue, which has raised a lot of eyebrows to the city residents, number one. Because PennDOT's answer to this, if you look at the map that I provided to you, they would now like us to continue down Kaiser Avenue, make a right-hand turn onto Jackson Street, continue down Jackson to Dewey Avenue, make a right on Dewey across to Washburn Street about a block, make a right on Sherman Avenue, and then back over to Luzerne Street, make a right-hand turn. You're taking commercial vehicles and you're creating a situation now where you're putting commercial traffic in a residential area that doesn't belong. This Kaiser Avenue project was supposed to be an improvement to this area, and this certainly has not been an improvement to me. For 30 years, we've been able to make a right off of Kaiser Avenue coming into our terminal. We've been able to make a left onto Kaiser Avenue going back out to Taylor. Now, once again, this is an inconvenience to every business that I service. I service a lot of businesses that are in the Stauffer Industrial Park, Kane Trucking, Anthracite Recycling. All visit my facility. I have a public scale, so we get on an average, including my own trucks, just to my facility alone, we get 24 to 30 pieces of equipment daily coming into our facility. Does the city number one, is the city aware that they've done this? Not only have they taken the privilege of making a left-hand turn on Dalton Street onto Kaiser Avenue, they have narrowed this intersection where it's going to be a chore to make a right-hand turn onto Kaiser Avenue because of where they've put the light poles and what have you. There's no longer going to be a turn lane, which there has been a turn lane on Dalton Street going to Kaiser Avenue for years, and that was in conjunction with the Washburn Street project. I'd like to know what the city can do for me, because I've told PennDOT that I'm going to continue this fight if I have to, and it's sorry that myself as a local business that we have to go to Harrisburg to fight this and stop this project. But if we have to, that's what I'm going to do.
Mr. Lewis, I would just, a couple things that I'd like to mention. First, City Council is aware of it. We were just talking previously to the meeting. We're trying to schedule a meeting with PennDOT regarding this project and all the problems that have come up specifically for West Siders such as ourselves. I travel this area on a daily basis, and not only is it an inconvenience currently for drivers and businesses, but this detour route that goes right through a residential neighborhood, there are safety concerns. Right. There's speeding in the neighborhoods where you never had it. There's truck traffic in neighborhoods where we never had it. And hopefully when PennDOT comes in, they're going to address these issues, and we need to go back to the project has to wrap up.
This can't be a hopefully. I have had the privilege, my employees have had the privilege for the last 30 years of turning right off of Kaiser Avenue and making a left onto Kaiser Avenue. Once again, we utilize the turnpike, which eliminates truck traffic on Luzerne Street and then the city streets, period, to access our facility. So, something has to be done. Not only am I losing, the citizens of Scranton are losing.
Mr. Lewis,
We will.
if I could just add to that, as my colleague has stated, we've discussed this issue previously, and I told him that I would try and get a meeting together with PennDOT. I made arrangements. The Kaiser Valley president will allow us to use Kaiser Valley Community Center. I've been in touch with Representative Flynn's office, and we're just trying to get together some dates to have a public meeting so the business people can address their concerns, so the utilities and the contractors and the PennDOT can explain to the public and the businesses what the timeline is for this project, what the changes are going to be. I don't like that change at all. I agree with you. I go back that way all the time myself. And as a matter of fact, I was going to complain today. Usually when they're working in that section, they have a flagger at Jackson Street and Kaiser Avenue.
Right.
Today there was
Today
none.
there was not.
And it causes chaos.
Yep.
Because everybody, you sit at that light long enough as it is, when they back up on Kaiser Avenue, there's no way through. You might sit there for a half hour. And something has to be addressed. I agree with you 1,000%. It's going to be an improvement down the road, but we shouldn't have to put up with all these inconveniences. And again, accessibility to businesses that was there before should continue there before.
Well, like you said,
Especially with the new
this
lighting.
is supposed to be an improvement project.
Yes.
And unfortunately, they're not improving the corner of Dalton and Kaiser Avenue. They have taken away, you took away the turn lane, and also my privilege of accessing our property, turning right and turning left on Kaiser Avenue.
We'll be sure to notify the businesses and the residents publicly of this
Soon?
meeting, which should be very soon, yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Faye Franis.
Faye Farina, Scranton.
Good evening.
I have quite a few things I want to address. A couple of weeks ago, when you had this vote on Pango, the parking meter, Mr. Rogan, Mr. Loscom, you weren't here, but he said that if had you been here, would you have voted with him?
Yes, I would have. I voted with Mr. Loscom the week previously to table
Thank
it.
you.
I would have voted no on that contract.
Thank you also. Thank you, Mr. Loscom. And because this Pango group is doing things that they're going to charge people $1.99 every month if they text message them to ask them if they want to park another hour, whereas this other group that Mr. Loscom wanted, they don't do that. So that's just one item. I mean, there's so many. There's something, like I said when I was here before, that there's an agenda here that you people have, but we won't know because you never let those are your little secrets. And Jack, Mr. McGough said something to you, and you said, and I believe in Santa Claus, and I forget what it was, but what he said was wrong, and I feel bad that you were a gentleman and you apologized. You had no reason to apologize. You were 100% correct when you said that, a million percent.
I was out of line. I should.
Pardon me?
I was a little out of line.
No,
I
you
shouldn't
weren't.
even made that comment.
Trust me, you weren't. I was saying the same thing you were saying because you were right. Another thing, I want to ask about this zoning. Mr. Rogan, maybe you could help me out on this, and if you take any time, I want you to extend this, please. About the Villa Marie on Luzerne's, Washburn Street, rather. They built an extension. It didn't come in front of zoning. They're supposed to have enough parking to accommodate that extension. So I understand there's an agreement between L.A. Lewis and Villa Maria to use part of their parking lot. Well, where is this agreement? Is this agreement in paper? Is it written? Is it law?
I was approached on this issue as well in the past, and our office has been involved. We've inquired with licensing and inspections to see, how that project.
A little bit louder, Pat.
We inquired with licensing and inspections to see how that was able to move forward without passing the zoning board.
And what was the answer?
Because it didn't pass at the zoning board.
It didn't go in front of the zoning board. It didn't even come in front of the
Right.
zoning board. How is that possible to build an extension without coming in front of the zoning board?
Right.
So, see what I mean about the city administration? They do what they want. And Mr. Menorah sits there and says things are legal when they're not legal. Mr. McGough says to me, he laughs. Wow, what a group. Other than you, Mr. Loscom, we have one heck of a corrupt council up here. It's such a shame. Jack, on the bottom of your street with all those rocks on Parallel Drive, who's responsible for cleaning that? The man that put them in alongside that curb or the city?
That's a good question, and it's a cross between, that's, part of that is County Road too, or Newton Ransom takes care of part of that. PennDOT takes part. The city has from the end of Parallel in.
Yes, but he put those stones there.
Yeah, do you know where they came from, which property?
Pardon me?
If
Yes.
you could tell us which property later, because I'm not sure.
The second property from Parallel Drive in from...
On the left side or across the
street? On the
street?
right-hand side, going in, the second house coming in. There's no
Okay.
houses on the left, I mean,
I'll
way
look
down.
at that again, and,
I forget his name, but he did that to stop water runoff going into his property.
yeah.
But
I
in the
know it was
meantime,
quite
now
a
all these
storm, but
rocks-
We do have to get it cleaned up, because it is
I can't even
slippery
drive
and
my
dangerous.
car up there, my other car, because it was hit with rocks. But anyway, Mr. Rogan, would you please find out where that paper is that says there's an agreement for the parking? And I want to know why the city inspectors allowed that to take place without a zoning hearing. I don't know. I don't know what to say here. I'm just thoroughly disgusted about this parking meter thing again. And there's nothing we can do. And Jack, I want to thank you for all your help with that. You're the only one up here, and Pat, in that respect, for that vote. We appreciate it. We spoke about the ordinances before, city people not doing the ordinances, following up. 1995, I had an ordinance passed to stop trucks in my neighborhood. It's a cave area. Today, I had a person from the office, the mining company at my house, because my backyard is going in a little. So that's being checked now. Every time a truck goes up, my house shakes. My garage caved in before. The house behind my garage is gone. It caved in. It's gone. But yet not one truck is stopped. They say they're just not stopped. I don't understand why they can't follow the law. Cops are parked down at the ball field all the time, but they're not. The trucks go right by them. I asked the one, are you stopping the trucks? They said, what trucks? They didn't even know about the sign, there's 2 people in their car. So, I don't know what you do about getting ordinances passed in the city. And one more thing about Mr. Amoroso. His contract is up. We don't need his help. And I hope the city doesn't find 1 penny to pay him any further. Billy Courtwright is not doing his job. He's hiring all these other people. Why isn't Bill Courtwright doing something? He has yet to approach the nonprofits. He's done nothing so far as the mayor. He's hiring other people to do the work he's supposed to. The stuff that Mr. Amoroso didn't do, let Bill Courtwright do. Why does he have to look to others for work that he's supposed to be doing himself?
Thank you, Mrs. Franis.
And one more thing. The community center. I understand that Karen Foster from the West Side Neighborhood Group got a $250,000 grant for a community center where L.A. Lewis is supposed to be, our tax dollars. I find it amazing that Karen Foster got this. Connect the dots. That money could have went much further, had much better use. What about the potholes? What about Kane Street?
Thank you, Mrs. Franis.
I just want to say one more thing, Mr. McGough, about what you just said.
Mrs. Franis,
I
you're
understand,
beyond...
but people spoke before me, spoke 5, 6, 7 minutes after their time. But you don't, you just call people out when you choose to because you don't want to hear what they have to say. And you let it, if you do it for one, you have to do it for all, and you're not.
Mrs. Franis, thank you.
Mr. McGough, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Doug Miller?
Good evening, Council. Doug Miller, Scranton. Before I get into the main agenda here, I just wanted to take a few moments just to thank everyone in the community that did support the spaghetti dinner that we held on June 29th over at the Villa Maria. I'd like to thank a lot of the people that came out on a Sunday. You know, it was a nice day, so I'm sure a lot of people had other things going on in their lives, but for that amount, excuse me, that amount of people to take the time to appear, you know, it's much appreciated. We were able to raise $500 to benefit the free swim. Mr. Gahan did show up. You know, a few other elected officials, commissioners, and former Mayor Connors. So, you know, I do appreciate the support in the community, and it's nice to see that. At one instance, we may have political differences, but you know, there are times when we can put those differences aside and come together as a community and support a good cause. But most of all, I really want to commend Ozzie Quinn and the Hill Neighborhood Group, because without their initiative, none of this would be taking place. Due to their hard work and their effort, nearly 200 kids across the city will swim for free this entire summer. And I think that has a lot to be said about Ozzie's leadership of stepping in and taking over the Hill Neighborhood Group and restoring some of the positive things that, you know, once took place on the Hill. And I think Ozzie and the group deserves a round of applause tonight. Now, moving along, I just wanted to comment on the plan brought forward by Mr. Amoroso. And as you could all recall, I certainly was never in favor of Mr. Amoroso coming forward to make recommendations to the city. I still believe that we elected a mayor, we elected a new council to come in and solve these problems for us. You know, everybody claimed to have all these grand, masterful ideas that we've yet to hear, but we had to bring in a transplant from New Jersey to basically show us how to put 2 and 2 together. And I don't know if we've still figured that out, but you know, it's all laid out in what he wants to call a plan. In my eyes, I see it more as a suicide mission. There's not one thing in here that, in my eyes, turns the city around. And, you know, with all due respect to Mr. Amoroso, you know, I'd like to refer to him as Henry the Liquidator, because that's all he recommends is liquidating one asset after another. Now we want to sell the sewer authority off. We want to sell parking garages that are allegedly worth $22 million, and we've yet to see how we've even come to that determination that they're worth $22 million. In fact, a lot of us are still waiting to determine how much those garages even cost to build. But how anybody could justify how it's common sense to sell parking garages and still owe $30 million on them, I'd like Mr. Amoroso or anyone who supports this fantasy to tell me how that's realistic or how that's even common sense. What's sensible about that? We're going to sell an asset off and still be $30 million in the hole. What's the justification? There is none. It's ridiculous. There's no common sense involved. The sewer authority we now want to sell, we want to go back to the days of American Anglian and see the rates skyrocket? Again, there's no common sense. The purpose of having an asset is to utilize it to make money. But we have an inability to be creative and know how to use our assets and make money with them. We sold the golf course and squandered that money. Past councils led Mr. McGough and others who squandered that money. And we wonder why we don't have swimming pools this summer, because we squandered $4 million that money was perpetually put in trust and to be used for parks and recreation. It shouldn't have been touched, but it was illegally due to the stupidity and the incompetence that we've had in our government. And we try to justify it time and time again. We want to talk about a county reassessment in this fantasy. Well, if we read the paper yesterday, we saw that that's going to cost $8.5 million, and the county doesn't want anything to do with that. So right off the bat, this plan is a flaw. You know, it's nice to put things on paper, but what's on paper and what reality is are two different things. And unfortunately, we've had a difficult time grasping the concept of reality. And until we grasp that concept of reality, we're just going to continue to go down this repetitive path and just continue to kick the can down the road. There's no creativity in our government. Everything's the same. We want to raise taxes, and now we want to pass it off to others. You know, it's nice to talk about raising taxes, and it's nice to have on paper, you know, that we're going to realize tax revenue. But it's come to the point now where people can't give what they don't have. And the residents of the city have been overtaxed for decade after decade that they don't have anything left to give because their government's let them down. And until we restore some common sense in our government, as I said, nothing's going to change. And the future of the city won't be bright. And, you know, it's come to the point now where maybe it's time to look into the possibility of discussing a bankruptcy petition. It's the first time I've ever said that, because in the past I've never been comfortable with that. But it's come to the point where unless we get our acts together and start solving our own issues, it might be time to go that route. But over the next few weeks, I'm going to, you know, brainstorm some different ideas. As you all know with me, when I am critical and objective to something, I always come back with an alternative, as I've done in the past. And I intend to spend some time and brainstorm some ideas and get discussion going. And maybe we need to have a town hall meeting and bring the residents together, because this is a team effort, and we need to solve our problems in-house. We don't need to keep bringing people from out of town. Let's solve our own problems. We caused them. We need to fix them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cindy Morgan?
Good evening. I'm Cindy Morgan, and I am a building owner and a business owner up in the Prescott area of Scranton. And I was just concerned. It's the first that I heard about this, that they're trying to pass an ordinance for permit parking, and I just don't understand how that's going to work. There are a lot of businesses. It's finally a nice growing area. At one time it was so deserted, and you know, now it's nice businesses. And I just feel like in our business area, when everybody is working, it's very hard to park right in front of your business. I mean, there's a restaurant, there's a bar, I have a hair salon, there's a yoga studio. So sometimes you can't park in front of your place, and you have to find alternatives to park. It's a public street, and I'm just concerned if this becomes just permit parking that we're going to lose businesses. I have tenants, so I mean, if you have your tenants parking in front of your places, and then you know other people come for business, you know, sometimes there isn't enough parking. And I have a couple pictures. I didn't have time to run them off, but just to show you, on the way down here I took, the street isn't that busy all the time. I don't know if could I approach and show a couple pictures, or I don't know if that's allowed or not.
If you wish, Whoops. Well, I just went to one. I'm sorry. I hit the. Oh, I can see them at the bottom.
Just to show that see, businesses leaving the area or us losing business because of, something like that. That's just my concern, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. Is there anyone else who wishes to address council?
Good evening, council. Permission
Good evening.
to give you some paper. Going to have to talk pretty fast. This one is on the sewer plant and the PUC. Dear editor, Scranton should not sell or lease its sewer system to American Water or any other private company. There's a few things here about Mayor Courtwright, which may or may not be true, so I'm not going to even read that. This new direction should not involve auctioning off the city's sewer to the highest bidder. Privatizing the utility would be a terrible deal for households and local businesses. Any money that the city receives in exchange for control of the system would be an expense loan that residents will have to repay through increased sewer bills. Scranton should have already learned this lesson. In 1999, the city of Dunmore and Scranton leased the sewers to American Water Exchange for $8 million for short-term budgetary relief. Just 5 years into the 20-year contract, after the company hiked its fees several times and contested the scope of maintenance responsibilities, which, by the way, we were fined $2 million for, and the next time may involve a prison sentence for somebody. So, unfortunately, in order to do so, the city of Dunmore had to pay back $6.6 million in upfront fee. It must have been Scranton and Dunmore I missed. The city narrowly avoided bankruptcy at the time by selling a stormwater system to the sewer authority. It goes on, in Coatesville, for example, the sewer rates quadrupled 400%. Now, I have a bill at home for about $62 for 2 months. So, do the math. That's probably, what, $300, $400 a year, maybe. And if it increases fourfold, it's going to be $1,200 a year. That's way more than you get out of me for both of my properties in this town, as far as taxes are concerned. And there's another one on water policy, Bruce Sproul. I'll address that next week. But I think it's self-explanatory. We should do everything we can to not. Now, the parking garages, I don't know. They've been a waste since the day they were built. They gave away all kinds of free space and handing them out to snake oil salesmen like the Hilton, which, by the way, was in town 3 times. They were on Washington Avenue. They were on over at the train station. They took all the subsidies, sold the place after 2 years, moved in again 15 years later, and I got better things to do than to hand some spoiled brat that makes X-rated movies free money. Now, as far as the Chamber is concerned, as far as I'm concerned with the Chamber of Commerce, all they are is tax abatement and outsource for their friends. They have no value to me whatsoever. I wish we had a Scranton Chamber of Commerce and not a greater Scranton Chamber of Commerce. 7C, intermodal. What about tax replacement for this? Now we have 2 tax-paying businesses going to move out of town. Well, one's moving out of town, one's probably getting a free lunch across the street, and maybe someday we'll have train service. Ooh, whose idea was that? Cordaro and Munchak. Now, Mr. Munchak, I kind of felt sorry for. He was kind of a big old nice guy that didn't have it in him to tell the other guy not to do what he did. But he let them boss him around, and as far as the other guy is concerned, I hope that he's carried out of the federal prison in a gurney someday. Now the prison, one more bites the dust. They're looking to take another property, the Lackawanna County Gulag, and turn it into a parking lot. So that's another tax. And, which leads me to, under the Constitution of Pennsylvania, we can only do, we cannot charge these people. We can beg, we can ask, we can whine and complain, but we cannot get these taxes replaced. Federal court, take the Pennsylvania Constitution to court. 33 and growing % of the city is tax exempt, and it's not sustainable. Pensions, I wonder if we put this money from the sewage plant. I'm not trying to make a jerk or pick on anybody, but they lost $26 million back in 2007 between the two public safety unions. I wonder if we still have the same people in charge. There's an ad on television, the Roach Highway, disaffected investors going back and forth to new houses. As far as the what I heard last week, Frank Joyce said it all months ago.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
And don't forget the bok bok.
Anyone else?
Andy Sprague, says Scranton, fellow Scrantonians.
Good evening.
I missed the presentation, but I did read it in the newspaper. And of all the things that were recommended that Mr. Courtright said he wholeheartedly endorsed was higher taxes and tweaking of the mercantile and business privilege tax, which we know was in there. I mentioned that very soon, if it came out of the chamber, that's what they're going to try to do, reduce the business privilege and mercantile tax. Because they said it's a detrimental. It probably is. But people paying that wage tax is also detrimental. And you're not going to do anything with that. I told you before, there's very little things you can do except raise our taxes. And that's what you're going to do, no matter what these other grandiose plans are. First of all, take the parking garage. We cannot sell the parking garage without the bondholder's approval. That means that the parking authority would have to pay off the bonds. They get the garages back into their control so they can sell it. That means they would have to borrow about 22 or 25 million to do that. And you know and I know it's not going to happen. And same thing with the sewer authority. Dunmore already says they're not on board with it, and most of the members that are on there are not on board with it, so we're going to have to wait until their time expires till we put people on there that's going to say, yes, we want to do this. But that's down the road, too. There's nothing in that plan that actually can help the city out at present except the wage tax. Increasing the wage tax, or that plan they had from Mr. Blake, I guess it is, our Senator Blake, wants to increase the emergency service tax. Notice I'm using the word emergency service tax because that's what it was supposed to be. Now it's going to be 3 times more than it was original. That's one of the reasons why I talk against Harrisburg up there with their 76 going to do something with the school tax. You and I know that's a farce. It's going to be the same thing like the emergency service tax. It's just going to keep rolling over and rolling over and rolling over. It's not fixed. And the only way you can do anything would say you can't raise without a statewide referendum raising taxes on that or changing the formula and take it away from the politicians for that to work. And they're not going to do that. So this is what we're going to stand with. You're going to sit there and you're going to take the brunt of raising taxes again. And I'm sorry, that's what you're going to have to do. And as far as the union goes, the password for the union is forward, not backward. The unions are not going to give back what they fought so hard to win. I can tell you that now. You're not going to be able to sell it on the rank and file because you couldn't do it in our union or you can't do it in any union. The unions want to go forward, not backward. So these are the problems you got. How are you going to handle them? I don't know. But you're getting $12,500 a year to figure it out. And if that's all you can figure out is to raise taxes, then we're definitely overpaying you. You got to come up with solutions. I don't care how you do them, go out and do them. That's the only way. Otherwise, you're going to get blamed for everything that's going on in the administration. I mean, the administration started off by raising salaries of their appointees, giving Mr. Poshak a contract when Peters was lower. People don't forget that. They're not going to forget that. That was political. That's all it was. Peters is very competent. When he was mayor, he was very competent. He was a good mayor. He was a darn good mayor. But unfortunately, we have gotten away from these people with principles into people that really don't really care. Because whatever, to raise somebody standard of living higher, you got to lower somebody's. And that's what you're doing. Every time you raise taxes, you lower somebody's standard of living. Whether you think it or not, that's what's being done. A lot of people are on fixed incomes in this city. And when you raise taxes one way or another, that takes away from their buying power. Maybe even takes away from them getting medicine. I don't know how much they're going to, stand by to keep their house. Unfortunately, people, when they get old, wants to die in their home. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, City Council.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Varsky, and I've attended most of your caucuses. However, in recent weeks, you've had several important caucuses back there in the room that should have been held out here in council chambers. One was the Audubon School. People deserve to hear what the plans were for the Audubon School. The next one was Verizon. That was very important. They came and made a pitch on where they wanted to put their towers, and the people have a right to know what part of the parks and what parks they're going to be in. That should not have been kept from the people. The other one was Mobile One. They put a bid in for the parking meters, the charge on the parking meters. For some reason, it was kept from the public, more or less. You had already made up your minds that Pago was going to be the one to get the job. It seems as though City Council, in the last 6 months, has become more secretive. I think it's time you opened up things, start answering questions, and not wait until motions. This council was elected to do the work of the people, not to hide, but to answer the questions. I hope you'll return to that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patricia Lewis. I'm married to David Lewis, who spoke a little earlier. And I just wanted to add to his comments that I wanted to clarify that the changes he talked about in regard to the truck traffic on Luzerne Street and on Kaiser Avenue, those are permanent changes. That's not just while the road is under construction. That's permanent changes that will divert the truck traffic through residential neighborhoods permanently. Thank you.
I understood that. I figured it was temporary first, but as he explained a little bit more, and I want to look into that too, because they're going by a baseball field, a football field there now with a lot of youth players and stuff like that to say, going through the residential neighborhood. But definitely, that has something to look at.
Good evening, Council. Marie Schumacher.
Good evening.
First, I'd like to give a big shout out to Tony Santoli. As we all witnessed, a lot of downed trees in this city from the storm the other evening, and I shudder to think how many more there would have been without the hundreds of trees that Mr. Santoli has examined and marked for either takedown or trimming, and he's taken very many down, and without that, this city would have been a disaster the other night. So a big shout out to Tony. The Amoroso brief, of course, had lots of issues, and there will continue to be issues, which I will hold for the town hall, and I would like to know who is in charge of setting up the town hall that was discussed last week. Okay.
There is no set procedure for doing it, so asking who's in charge of doing it, whoever initiates it would be in charge.
I'll have to go back and read the minutes, but I thought council took that on last week, so I'll go back and come back next week on that. But the thing that I do think is important, a while back, several months ago, I provided a copy of an article that was written this past January by the first receiver of the city of Harrisburg, and it was entitled "The Critical First and Last Steps in Municipal Workout." Spoke to Vallejo, California, Harrisburg, and Detroit, Michigan. I'd just like to read the first, and then I have a copy for each of you so that you can read through it and consider, but I will read the first paragraph. It says, "The first critical step in a municipal workout, whether inside or outside of bankruptcy, is to get all parties, the debtor and the creditors, to accept that they will all have to incur significant losses as a result of the workout process. Secured creditors will do better than unsecured creditors, but taking that into account, the losses need to be fair and proportionate, and the municipality needs to come out the other end of the process able to operate successfully into the future." I say after the meeting I will give you each a copy, but I hope you don't piecemeal this thing. I think that's the worst thing you could do, is encourage a lot of holdouts. What we need is a giant negotiation, everybody, and get it all done, everything voted on in one night. And if we come out some money ahead, the better for our future. But definitely do not piecemeal it. Mr. Rogan, do you have the answers to my OECD loan questions, or?
To some of them. I spoke to Linda and Attorney Hickey this week regarding the two main issues that you brought up, one being the loans in general, one being Alexander specifically. On Alexander specifically, those provisions, if they're not brought up by the deadline, they will sunset, but there are negotiations ongoing for a longer term deal. Regarding the loan portfolio in general, I did speak to Linda and Jean, Attorney Hickey, and we went over, we're currently in the administration and myself, we're currently in the process of changing the way that we go after delinquent loans. I'm hopeful that by the beginning of, after the August recess, that we'll be able to go into a little more detail on what the plan is, but it won't be the way that business was done, where if somebody doesn't pay, they just let it go. Okay. And then that was the problem.
Well, but we were told that they were in litigation. As a matter of fact, there was like 1.6 million. So, we all sort of sucked in our breath a couple weeks ago when we learned about the cutbacks for this year, or the coming year, in the monies that can be provided because of old issues. And I think it's way too far. We should hear about those things at least quarterly. And I hope to hear on an individual basis and by the end of July, not wait until September, because September we're going to start hopefully acting. You'll have some issues to act on with respect to whether or not we're going to get a workout or whether we're going to go into bankruptcy. So I would hope that would occur. Moving on, there was a request for proposals for a street lighting project Phase 2. Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up because there is one on the agenda tonight in 7th order. And last chance to talk on that. I guess this will be it for the night. But if you would tell me when it says, this is on 7B, it says to execute and enter into an automated red light enforcement program. Is this a red light camera that you're introducing into the city?
No, this is a modification to the signal head at the intersection of South Washington Avenue and Elm Street. It's not anything to do with a red light.
Really?
That's just the name of the grant.
Okay, I'll bring the rest back next week. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address council?
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Lee Morgan. I just wanted to make some really brief comments, I guess, about Mr. Amoroso's plan. I find it very troubling that we brought someone here, as other speakers have also stated, that told us stuff we already knew. And as far as turning this city around, I think that maybe council and the mayor should go back to the council and the mayoral races that I was in and look at what I said, because it's not very complex. I may have never won an election, but I never spent any money either. Spent over 20 years coming to these council meetings, and I have some real ideas. And I think if people looked at them and you could accept somebody else's ideas instead of the politically connected people that maneuver behind the scenes, I think we can save what's left of this city. But if we keep going down the same broken road that we've perceived our answers lie, we're going to be in big trouble here. The end is within reach here, very closely within reach. Because after the sewer authority is gone, if it ever happens, and the parking garages are gone, there's nothing more but hellacious tax increases and mountains of debt. And that's how simple it gets. It doesn't get much simpler than that. And in regard to the city employees, I find it very troubling that they've picked the councils and the mayors in this city for probably close to 80 years, and they never once protected their own pensions. It's a very troubling thing. But the residents in the city have paid the tax to pay those pensions, but it was diverted. We need to ask, where did all the state and federal revenue that came into the city to turn it around go to? We haven't even figured out, I think, what happened to the bars at the Naog Zoo. I mean, this city has been so thoroughly looted over decades, and now we're going back to the same people asking them for money. And when we look at the census numbers for this city, we've went to near 140,000 down to 70, which tells you that people have left. And of course, a lot of people have passed away, but their children aren't staying here. And we keep worrying about utter silliness. We have a North Scranton project that's stalled for how long? A decade or more? We're worried about the Scranton Lace building, and the whole city is just falling apart. People walk through this city, even people who come back here after 30 years can't believe how this city looks. I think any plan has to be liquid. It has to be able to move and maneuver. I think it has to be not firmly placed like Mr. Amoroso and maybe this council and this mayor believe. This plan has to change according to what's happening on the ground here. And the employees of the city, I just can't see how a city can employ anyone without a population base. And the people here have come up and talked about, you know, the age of the average Scrantonian. It's getting older. The baby boomers of the generation I'm part of are getting older. But I would like to see the baby boomers solve our problems so we don't kick this can down the road, because like I said here once before, Mr. Rogan, Mr. Gahan, whatever's left of this city, that's what you're going to get. That's all you're going to get. And it may be a mountain of debt, because really there aren't very smart decisions being made here. And the people making the decisions for the city behind the scenes, they're not worried about us, they're worried about them. And that's the problem. So I think it's time for this mayor and this city and this council to take a good hard look at what's going on. Start opening that budget up for the next budget. Don't rely on the administration's plans or numbers. I think that the budget needs to be split up amongst all 5 council members, because one person can't do it. And that's not a shot at any council person. It's just this problem is so big and it's never been solved. You know, I went to St. Mary's Center when we went into this distress status. Nothing's happened, except it's gotten worse. And there's only one question here that needs to be solved or answered. Is there going to be a Scranton after this is all said and done? Flint, Michigan's getting ready to file bankruptcy. I don't know. You know, and when you look at the city's employees saying that this plan is better than anything they've seen before, well, if they call this a plan, I don't know. I think it's like going to the funeral, you know, going to the gravesite, because really, honestly and truthfully, has this city gotten any better in 20 plus years? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Council.
Good evening.
I wasn't going to come tonight and bother you people. A fellow phoned me about 5 o'clock and tried to sell me a house across from me, and we started talking about the city. This is what you people think is a good report. Shame on you. This is an absolute disgust. I don't think, maybe Jack, I know Jack has, I don't think the 4 of you have ever talked to somebody that lives in a project now that lost their house, not because of a fire. I've talked to some people right across the street in that building that had a home paid for and couldn't afford it no more with everything. Here you're giving Mr. Armoso hero status for a report that a grammar school kid could have advocated raising taxes. You're not doing nothing about the cause of all this chaos, for crying out loud. And that's these phony nonprofits that goes on and on. They keep buying property. I'll tell you what, somebody get on your computer, since Lackawanna College took the little area over there, see how many buildings they got. It's not that many. And see how much money every year went off the tax rolls. Then you can multiply that, probably 100 years from the university's been taking property, and 150, 60 pieces of property they had. You're talking about tens of millions of dollars. Why isn't something done about the Pure Charity Act? If Mr. Armoso had any thought about this city, he'd be over there rewriting that act that these phony colleges are hiding behind. But no, he doesn't even mention the phony colleges. And then he doesn't mention all the waste that goes on. This week, the paper said the jail is buying property up around them for parking. Why can't they give the employees permit parking on the street? They give it to the university students. They're allowed to park all over the place, where a car that's inspected and insured and licensed can't use a parking space over there because of some snotty kid that lives in a house with 75 people. It's not right what goes on in this city. Why should somebody have their house and lose a house because of all the waste around here, so people can park to visit someone in jail. And I've been in the jail and I've visited people in the jail. I'm not making fun of no one. You can walk. People have been walking to that jail for 100 years. It's just a continual, constant, never ceasing waste that goes on, and everybody sees it. Every place you look, you can see it. Last year, I complained they had a crew cut down some trees by my house, and a couple weeks later, there was another crew there trimming, cutting trees just to have something to do. I talked to them. I walked my dog down there. That's when it just, you people just don't think of us that put you in those seats. You've just forgotten about us. What are we going to do? Huh? You're going to go on and let this man do like he did Newark? He's not no hero in Newark, I guarantee you. All he did was sell everything that wasn't nailed down and blow out of town, and on his way out of town, he messed up the hospitals. You can't sell the sewer authority. What if you sell it? Tell me what's going to happen if you sell the sewer authority? They're going to raise rates where we wouldn't be able to afford to use the water. It's to be a private business. They're not going to let it go. Look at the gas company. We're supposed to be the biggest producers in the world. They raised our gas 6% so far this year. You think the sewer authority won't be out? It'll be outrageous what'll go on. It's time somebody that's put you in those seats to replace one of them. You're not doing a good job. You're just not doing the job for the people of this city. You ought to stand down there in front of Price Right and talk to the people from that neighborhood and see what goes on in this city. I told them 6-8 years ago, it's time for a curfew because we're having problems with gangs. Nothing was done. You people just don't do nothing to help us. I'll tell you, if I could sell my house, like I said, I could walk off and get my equity and leave town and be better off. I love this town. I got friends all over this country, that business associates that I met business-wise, where I could go and spend some happy days. I stay here by choice, and I'd sure like to see somebody do something for the city for a change besides sit there and just take your money and listen to these people every week.
Thank you,
and I'm
Mr.
very
Elwood.
happy they got some new, fresh faces out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Fifth order, 5A, motions.
Mr. Wexler?
Thank you, Mr. McGough. The first thing I'd like to do tonight, and I'm sure the rest of my colleagues do the same, would be to thank the fire, police, and the DPW workers of our city for their response to the storm the other night. The city was hit pretty hard, and I think our guys and girls did a great job, and they do care about the city, and they're working to make it better. In terms of the town meeting that was discussed last week, I suggested the town meeting last week, and Mr. Rogan agreed with me. And we are looking for comments on this plan. But in my opinion, it's up to the administration to take the lead on this town meeting. In order for this plan to work, we need information from the people that are going to put it in place. And right now, the council, we are not the people that are going to put this plan in place. We had the presentation last week, just like you did. And we are also looking for information. So I think as we move forward through the summer, I believe that the administration has to do more to make us familiar with what's going on. We also were in receipt of some concerns about Mary Lane up on East Mountain. Back in March, Mr. Gahan and we took a tour of the mountain, took a look at several different streets. Unfortunately, Mary Lane is not on the paving list for this year. But we are working towards getting it on for future paving, and if any money does become available, we are aware of the conditions on that street. That's all I have today, Mr. McGough.
Thank you. Mr. Rogan?
Yes, just a few brief comments. Mr. Wexler's correct. Everyone in the city did a great job with the storm, our police, our fire, our DPW, And I would like to second what one of our speakers said. Mr. Santoli did a great job. I actually had a request that was sent in, and luckily it was taken care of. It was a very large dead tree, and luckily it was taken care of right before the storm, over the weekend and on Monday, and it was topped. It was a tree up on East Mountain, and it was a very large tree. I can't even imagine what would have happened if that tree was still there when the storm came through on Tuesday. So a great job by all on those items. Regarding the report that was presented last week, I think there are obviously a lot of items on there. Some I support, some I don't support, and I think the public out there feels the same way. And I agree, we need to hear input from the public on what items they would like to see move forward, what items they would like to see not move forward. But I think that process starts by voting, by putting them on the agenda for an up or down vote. As we know, council takes 3 votes on any major pieces of legislation. Once those items are put on the agenda, it gives the members of the public a chance to come and comment 3 times at council, and we talked earlier in our caucus about having a special public comment period prior to a council meeting specifically on these items. Kind of like what we had today regarding the parking in the hill section, this would be the same type of venue, just specific to items in this plan. And I did ask my colleagues, and they all agreed that if City Council does consider pursuing a commuter tax, that we must have input from those who live outside of the city, who normally, by rule, aren't allowed to speak at City Council meetings. So that is something that I'm glad we all agreed to allow those from outside the city to come and address council on that issue as well, because it will affect a number of people. That being said, having this plan just being presented to us last week, I would once again like to speak my opposition to City Council recessing throughout the month of August. There are so many items in that plan that need to be acted on, whether they're voted up or they're voted down. Those items should all be, as many as we can, should be addressed before the budget is created. 2 years ago, one of the biggest problems the city had with the budget was there were items that were put in there, that were put in the budget that weren't addressed previously. And the budget was passed, those items weren't realized, and then the city was left with a giant shortfall. That's why I believe by beginning to address them now and having votes and listening to discussion from the residents, that will make the city much better prepared come budget time. So I would hope that we could possibly consider coming in for the month of August to address these items in the report, one by one. And that's something that I think we should all consider. I would certainly support it. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Mr. Laskin?
Yes, thank you. It's my turn to provide some handouts. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. To all of our speakers, viewers, supporters, my colleagues and critics, I humbly announce that this will be my last meeting as a sitting city councilman. Effective with the conclusion of this meeting, I will be resigning from my position as a Scranton City Councilman. This decision has not been easy, but at the urging of family and close friends, I've come to the realization that it is now time to step down. It has been no secret that I have faced financial difficulties since the seizing of my pension almost immediately after my appointment to City Council in January of 2010. I was unaware of the ordinance, which was written when I was 10 years old, until a few days after I was sworn in. At that time, I had a decision to make. Do I immediately resign, as was hoped by those who dug up this arcane ordinance, or do I continue to serve as I believed that I could weather the storm as this issue made its way through the legal system? I chose the latter. Unfortunately, the economy didn't cooperate, and I found myself struggling to make ends meet to the point of nearly losing my home. Fortunately, for those in mortgage distress, there are local programs that provide assistance to those who seriously want to save their homes. I want to personally thank the representatives of the United Neighborhood Centers, more specifically Terry Lynn DiAgostino, my attorney Ray Ferrario, and especially Judge Terry Nealon for providing a court option, encouraging the banks to work with individuals in mortgage distress on a plan for payment agreements and mortgage modifications in an effort to keep families in their homes. And I urge anyone out there in the same position to seek this help because it's invaluable, and a lot of our OECD money goes into these plans. They don't provide you with any finances, but they provide you with, their expertise. As a result of this program, I am happy to report that the bank has approved my mortgage modification, as a result of a successful trial period. As the city struggles to implement the financial recovery plan, so too have I been working on a recovery plan to get my personal finances in order. A big part of my plan is a commitment to my bank that I must work to bring my income up to my pre-city council days. In order to accomplish my plan, it is incumbent upon me at this time to seek reinstatement of the pension that I earned as a firefighter. This past year especially has had its personal ups and downs for me, as I have buried some close friends and my kid's sister and campaign manager, Kathy Martin. My mother and my wife have both undergone serious surgeries, and I have also been blessed this year with the arrival of a new granddaughter, Gracelyn, in March, and will be further blessed with twin grandchildren, Mason and Sophia, in early September, bringing me up to 7 lovely grandchildren. I have loved every minute of serving you as both an appointed and an elected city councilman, and I have been very honored to do so. So as I leave this dais for the final time, when I ask for a motion to adjourn at the conclusion of this meeting, I am sure that I leave you in capable hands, and I have the utmost confidence that my colleagues will find a suitable replacement. May God bless you all, and may we all work together to bring Scranton back to the friendly and prosperous city it once was. Thank you very much. That's all, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Well, that was a shock. Well, first, I'd like to thank you, Councilman Loscom, for your service on council. Sad to see you go, and I hope everything works out with you and your family, and I wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
First, a reminder that the street sweeper is scheduled to be in the Greenridge area next week, Deacon Street to Finn Street, including all streets and avenues. An update on the proposed cell phone towers in the parks that have gone back and forth the last few weeks. I was copied on a letter dated July 9th from Mayor Courtwright to Mike Oser, who is the site acquisition specialist for Network Building and Consulting, who is trying to seek variances for construction of Verizon cell phone towers at Weston Field in Cayuga Park. The letter gives Mr. Oser authorization to seek zoning variances for the cell phone towers. Should Mr. Oser receive the variances from the zoning board, the mayor will then determine if he will submit proposed lease agreements to City Council for their review and approval. I failed to mention this at the beginning of the meeting, but there's a great event going on tonight at Courthouse Square that I wanted to mention. The Drive-In Downtown movie series sponsored by Scranton Tomorrow. It is a free family-oriented event. Tonight's movie Frozen 2, the sing-along version, will be shown at dusk. There are also many kids' activities before the movie. The July 24th movie will be Despicable Me 2. For more information, please contact Leslie Collins of Scranton Tomorrow at 570-963-1575. Just a comment on the town hall meeting. I am not opposed to having a town hall meeting, but I would recommend that council invite the mayor, because I believe he should be here and he should run it. The ball is now in the mayor's court. He's the executive. We have a strong mayor form of government. He agreed to all the recommendations in Henry Amoroso's plan. He should be here. So if city council is going to run this, I don't know how you guys are going to do this, but I would recommend whenever we're going to have it that we send correspondence down to the mayor's office requesting that he be here for that. And that is all I have.
Mr. McGough, I apologize for jumping out of turn, but I just wanted to also thank Councilman Loscom for his service to the city. One of the first votes that I made when I was elected to council was to appoint Mr. Loscom, and it's been a pleasure working with you. I know you really care for your city, and that really shows with the financial hit that you took over the last few years up here fighting the fight with us for what's right for the city. And I know for myself, you'll be deeply missed on council, and the expertise that you brought to this board, specifically with public safety issues in the fire department, will be missed. And I'll be calling you many times, even after you're gone, for advice on those issues.
So. Thank you. I hope to hear from all of you.
Thanks, Jack.
Mr. McGough, I'd like to. This came as quite a shock to us tonight, and
I apologize for last minute because it was a last minute decision. There's been a lot of.
Well, I can appreciate all the thought that went through it, and I know Jack a long time before I sat with him here on council. We worked together on many different projects, and I've always enjoyed his company and also his perspective on what he brings to the table, and I also am going to miss you. And I wish it could be different, but good luck in your future events.
Thank you.
A couple of comments. First of all, a couple of things that came up. I do take issue with people describing our council as being secretive and closed to the public. I've been here for a number of years, and I believe that this council has been as open and as transparent as any council, as any previous council. As far as the specific things that were brought up, yes, we did have a caucus with Audubon. We also had a public hearing held here in council chambers with dealing with the Audubon project. As far as Verizon people coming in, there's no legislation yet before us. Believe me, that if there is legislation for the creation of cell towers throughout the city or in the parks, whatever it may be, certainly there will be ample opportunity provided for the public to weigh in on a specific proposal. Yes, the Mobile Now, we did not have any public caucus on that other than the one in council chambers, but that was an after the fact presentation, and one that we did not schedule. So when there is something of importance to council, we do have, and we have had, a caucus in council chambers. We are not trying to be secretive at all. We are trying to be as open and transparent as possible. As far as the presentation last week by Mr. Amoroso, I agree with the other members of council. This is something that's extremely important to the city. It's not something that should be addressed simply by council. It's something that should be addressed by the administration, by council, by the public, by everyone that's a stakeholder in these recommendations, in the well-being of the city. I would hope that as we move forward, that the administration and the council takes a very active role in these recommendations, and hopefully we can work together as we have for the past 6 months to bring to fruition some of these recommendations that were made by Mr. Amoroso, but not without leadership that's needed and not without the information that is needed to move forward.
And just one kind of odd, one of the speakers mentioned the baby boomers. When I taught high school in history, I constantly, we talked about demographics and how various demographics feed into what happens. And one of the things that has been pointed out by many people is that the baby boom generation, while it has been a benefit to American society, at this point in time, it may be the greatest detriment to American society. We, me being one of them, we are using up a lot of the resources of this country. And I used to tell the kids in high school somewhat facetiously that probably the best thing that the baby boomers can do to help the country is go to their eternal reward. But in dealing with these issues, the baby boom generation does have a great effect on things like pensions, Social Security, and all. And it's not just something that's exclusive to Scranton or the Scranton area. This is a nationwide problem. And lastly, this was a surprise, Mr. Lascombe. I know over the past couple of years we have disagreed on a number of issues, but I've always said that I feel that disagreement breeds change. If there's constant agreement on everything, you never change. And I have valued the opinions that Mr. Lascombe has brought to this council, and I think that we have developed a mutual respect for one another and a working relationship that I thought was allowing us to, as a council, to make progress towards a better city. And I think that Mr. Lascombe's contributions to this council and to the city will be sorely missed.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire.
And that's all.
5B for introduction, a resolution accepting a donation of $10,000 from Allied Services presented to the City of Scranton to provide free swimming for economically disadvantaged individuals at the Naog Park Swim Complex.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5B be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
Yes, I'd just like to thank Allied Services for this donation. Free swimming at Naog is something that I've always supported, and this donation is one step towards that. It will help the kids in that area, as have the Hill Neighborhood Association and many other groups. I know the Taxpayers Association prior to that held fundraisers. So a big thank you to Allied Services and to our administration for pursuing the donation.
All those in favor of introduction signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved.
5C for introduction, a resolution appointment of Thomas J. Galella, Jr., 112 Peller Avenue, Scranton, Pennsylvania, 18505, as a member of the City Planning Commission effective July 3, 2014. Mr. Galella's term will be for 4 years and will expire on July 3, 2018.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion that item 5C be introduced into its proper committee.
So moved.
Second.
On the question.
Just not a question. I know Mr. Galella personally. I think he'll be a good asset to this commission.
Absolutely.
I was going to say that, yes, Mr. Galella has submitted his a resume, and Mr. Galella has also served in a number of capacities in city government and local government in the past, and yes, will be a welcome addition to the city planning commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it and so moved.
Sixth order, 6A, reading by title, file of the Council number 34, 2014, an ordinance establishing permit parking only in the 900 block of Prescott Avenue on both sides of the street, 901 to 949 and 902 to 956, which includes all the residences with the exception of apartments located above commercial properties.
You've heard reading by title of item 6A. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6A pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question. I would say that in the public hearing, we heard commentary from residents on Prescott Avenue, and during the civic participation, we have heard another person speak to that, recognize that parking in any area is difficult, especially where there are commercial enterprises, but at least from my opinion, this is a somewhat unique situation, given the number of commercial enterprises and also the school and other factors, and I believe that permit parking is the right thing to do for this area. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
6B, reading by title, file of the Council number 35, 2014, an ordinance creating and establishing special city account number as noted, entitled Garrity Park, for the receipt and disbursement of grant funds received under grant application.
You've heard reading by title of item 6B. What is your pleasure?
I move that item 6B pass reading by title.
Second.
On the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved.
Seventh order, 7A, for consideration by the Committee on Rules for Adoption, file of the Council number 33, 2014, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate officials of the City of Scranton to enter into lease agreements with West Scranton Little League for various Little League, T-ball, Farm League, Teener League, Missy League, baseball, and softball for use of city-owned property in connection with approved Little League, T-ball, Farm League, Teener League, Missy League, baseball, and softball activities for a 3-year period commencing April 15, 2014, and ending April 14, 2017.
As chair for the Committee on Rules, I recommend final passage of item 7A.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7A legally and lawfully adopted.
7B, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, resolution number 64, 2014, authorizing the mayor and other appropriate city officials to execute and enter into an automated red light enforcement program project agreement, reimbursement agreement number as noted, with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania Department of Transportation regarding the addition of a left turn signal head at Washington Avenue, Elm Street, City of Scranton, Lackawanna County.
What is the recommendation of the chair for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7B.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7B legally and lawfully adopted.
7C, for consideration by the Committee on Public Works for adoption, resolution number 65, 2014, authorizing the Director of the Department of Public Works of the City of Scranton to sign and submit the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation application for traffic signal approval for traffic signal permit number as noted for the modifications of the traffic signal at the intersection Lackawanna Avenue and Steamtown Mall driveway, Mifflin Avenue in downtown Scranton as part of the construction of the County of Lackawanna Transit System intermodal facility.
What is the recommendation, what is the recommendation of the chair for the Committee on Public Works?
As chairperson for the Committee on Public Works, I recommend final passage of item 7C.
Second.
On the question. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes. I hereby declare item 7C legally and lawfully adopted.
7D, for consideration by the Committee on Finance for adoption, resolution number 66, 2014, accepting a donation of $3,600 from Amos Towers Management Enterprises Incorporated, presented to the City of Scranton Fire Department for the purchase of toolboxes, including miscellaneous hand tools, for 9 of the city's apparatus.
What is the recommendation of the chair for the Committee on Finance?
As chairperson for the Committee on Finance, I recommend final passage of item 7D.
Second.
On the question.
Just on the question, I would like to thank the management of Amos Towers for once again making a considerable donation on equipment to the fire department.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Wexler?
Yes.
Mr. Rogan?
Yes.
Mr. Loscom?
Yes.
Mr. Gahn?
Yes.
Mr. McGough?
Yes, I hereby declare item 7D legally and lawfully adopted. Any other business? Mr. Loscom?
No further business, just motion to adjourn.
This meeting is adjourned.